So about the D visa types that Portugal currently offers, the most popular choices right now will be the D7 visa. This is for holders of passive income. It's not only for retirees, it's most common for retired people, but also those who receive like dividends from companies, or if you receive rents, like if you are a landlord and you get rentals on a regular basis, this also qualifies for the D7 visa. So all types of passive income are eligible for this visa type. And it's possible to be combined. So you need to have at least one source of passive income, but if you have more, you can add and you can complete. So the more, the better. But if you have only one that already meets the minimum amount required, it's already enough. And we'll check about the requirements later. The D8 visa, it's for digital nomads. It's a new visa type. Actually, it's working for about 2 years already. And this is related for those who can work remotely and can live in Portugal working for a foreigner company. It cannot be a Portuguese company. So for those, they will need to prove that they are able to work from Portugal fully remotely. It has a higher threshold for the amount that we'll check later. And all these visa options entitle applicants to be accompanied by family members. So if you have spouse, kids, they can also apply. There is actually a specific visa for them, which is called accompanying. It's a residence visa for accompanying a family member. And these applications, they will be linked to the main application. So you can bring your family, you will apply for one of these visa types, and the family members will apply for the accompanying family member visa. And you might receive the approvals all at the same time as a family. And about how to qualify for these visa types. First of all, we have the D7 visa. As I mentioned, you will need to have at least one source of regular passive income. So the government, they will need to observe and you will need to provide some proof that this source of passive income it happens like on a regular basis. It doesn't really need to be every month, but if not, you will need to provide further bank statements, because to prove that, one of the requirements is to show the most recent 3 bank statements at least, and the most recent tax return preferably. So like that, using that, you need to prove the minimum amount per month should be at least the Portuguese minimum wage, which is currently 870 euros. If you have family members, this amount should increase a bit. So 50% for additional adults like the spouse, or 30% for each additional kid if you have kids. So you will need to calculate to check what will be the minimum amount for the D7 visa like that. Also, it's necessary to prove that you have savings of at least 10,400 euros. It's actually 440 euros, which is 12 times the Portuguese minimum wage. So you need to prove that you already have how to cover your expenses in Portugal for at least a year. It's like a guarantee that you can come, you can move, and it won't be a problem for you, like for your financial situation. So for those savings, we highly recommend opening a Portuguese bank account here. You can do that remotely, and it helps a lot to get the approval at the end. If for any reason you're not able to open the bank account in Portugal before you apply, it can represent some risks, but still it's possible to try. But we always help our clients to get in touch with a bank manager, so you can already deposit this amount of money in Portugal before the application. So you will bring an updated bank statement from Portugal showing that, well, I already have this savings in Portugal, so it's pretty easy for me to move and to cover my expenses, plus showing the regular source of income. So it causes a really good impression to the Portuguese agents, and there is no reason for them to deny the application. So for the D8 visa, it's a little different. You will need to prove that you can work remotely. This can be done like through a work contract, through a service contract, because you can be either an employee or a self-employed person. So a professional that can show that in the previous 3 months, on average, they are receiving at least 4 times the Portuguese minimum wage, net, not gross. So you will need to show that you have these regular payments that represents the minimum average amount of 3,480 euros per month in the previous 3 months of the application. So this is important to provide bank statements, the work contract or service contract, and also the most recent tax return. If you have pay slips, if you have receipts like to your clients, you can also provide that. The more, the better to create a strong application. As for the savings, for the D8 visa, the savings will represent the same amount as for the D7 visa, so it won't be higher. What is higher is the average active income that you need to prove. So for savings, it will be the same, 12 times the Portuguese minimum wage, representing around 10,400 euros. So also here we recommend using the Portuguese bank account statement if possible. If not, for the D8 visa, it's a little more flexible. You can just, through the work contract, they can consider that you already have what they call means of subsistence. But by our experience, it's really good and important to try to open the bank account here and show that you have these savings. Right, so about the main required documents for all of these D visa types, you will need a valid passport for all of the applicants, the most recent bank statements, the past 3 months at least. If you can add a little more, like 6 months, it's good as well. And here we have one of the most sensitive part of the process. So for any of these D visa types, you need to prove that you already have a proof of accommodation in Portugal for at least 12 months. So even though, well, you don't know yet if you'll get the approval, they expect to see that you were able to secure accommodation in Portugal already for at least 12 months. So they can see that you have where to stay when you come. They have some options for you to prove that. The most common one will be a formal lease agreement. So for that, you can, even remotely, you don't need to come to Portugal. You can search for some options. And if you sign a legit lease agreement, like signed by both parties, you and the landlord, this can be already used for your D visa application. It represents like a risk of you maybe losing 1 or 2 rents, because the thing is, they have 60 days to provide to you the decision, the approval. So the start date of the lease agreement doesn't need to be really when you go to apply for your visa, but it must be like at most 2 months after your application date. So until you are able to move to Portugal, maybe you can lose 1 or 2, but it's part of the process. So they need to see the formal lease agreement for that. It's the most used one, but some jurisdictions can offer different options, like even hotel or Airbnb reservation. The confirmation can be used for you to prove that. But it's just not really convenient because maybe usually it's more expensive. And also, there's a good one if you know someone in Portugal who lives here, if it's a Portuguese citizen, or if you have a friend which is like a foreigner who lives in Portugal, and if they have the residence permit card already, they can invite you to stay at their place. And there's a specific form that this friend or family member could sign on your behalf, and this can be used as proof of accommodation as well. So you can prove that you will stay at their place for at least 12 months according to what they signed for you. It's also available. And of course, if you have a property here, if you purchased a home in Portugal already, the property deed could be used as proof of accommodation. Also, the travel medical insurance, they will require that. It's not only a travel insurance, it must be a travel medical insurance. Actually, what I mean is like it's not only a health insurance, it must be for travel as well. So it must cover from your country of origin to Portugal, expenses, risks like repatriation of bodies and urgency if you have any problem that you need to use the hospital, but not only for Portugal, it must be for the whole Schengen area. So it must cover all countries of the Schengen area, and it must cover at least 30,000 euros. So you might find some policies that offer, there are some standard ones that will offer for 3 months validity, but that's for tourism. Since you are applying for a residence visa, you will need to get that valid for at least 6 months, because then it will cover the whole period of the application process and the visa that will be granted to you, which is valid for 4 months in your passport. So at least 6 months. If possible, you can purchase more, like for 12 months, so you can use that when you move as well. Also, the criminal record certificate is a mandatory requirement for all those who are over 16 years old. And it has a validity of 90 days. So once it is issued, you can use that within 90 days. So after 3 months, if you didn't apply yet, you will need to get a new one. So this is a document that you don't need to get right away when you start preparing your documents. You can leave to focus first on the proof of accommodation and also the bank statements. And if you intend to open the bank account here, so you can start with this part. The criminal record certificate will be necessary and you can get it later. The proof of family ties, so if you have family members joining you to the application, they will need to prove that their relationship with you. So the relationship with the main applicant. For that, they will need to, if it's your kid, they will need to get the birth certificate. This one, it has a validity of 12 months. So it must show an issue date of the document. So if you have an old version of the birth certificate, older than 12 months, you will need to request a new one at the county where they were registered. So if they are not able to do that for you, you could just get a notarized version of the original, like a notarized photocopy of the original, because it must show an updated date for the application. And the same for the marriage certificate. If you're bringing your spouse, you will need to show the marriage certificate and it must be updated. But for that, the validity is of 6 months. Also, partners are eligible for this to be linked as a family members. If you are not married, but if you live in a civil partnership or stable union, that can be proved. If you are able to prove that you live together for at least 2 years, 2 consecutive years from the moment you apply. So for the past 2 years, you can prove common life, common housing, and this will be also possible. And of course, the proof that you qualify for the specific visa type, so the passive income, the active income, the company registration. So the checklist will be specifically for the visa type that you are selecting, and each one will have some specific requirements. So this is our overview. I hope I could clarify many of your questions, but now we'll be here to help. If you have any questions, we are here to clarify everything for you.